All right, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of our bi-weekly webinar, where we keep you up to date with what's happening with the team, things that you should be interested in paying attention to, and probably more importantly, things that you shouldn't be paying attention to. So joining you today from sunny Mequon, Wisconsin, where last night we left a national conference for Elevate. So a wonderful group and some presentations there, presented to some advisors as well on some of the things that we do, sharing our best practices. But my gratitude today goes to 2 days from now. The reason that I'm actually here, it's her birthday. So today I want to just make sure I'm lifting up the gratitude for my mother, one of the most important, probably the most important person to me existing and being around. So I appreciate her and all she does for us. And everything that she has done for me, but really it's just a shout out to her. And remember, last year was 52 loves 70. Now it's 53 loves almost 71. So very good. Love you, Mom. And if you're on the call as well, I just want to make sure that we all wish her a happy birthday if you'd like to as well. If you want to put it in the comments, I'll copy and paste it. And we also have another team member here in a couple of days who has a pretty special birthday as well. So Zach is a wonderful birthday coming up too. So I wanted to reach out to both, and that's my gratitude for the day. How about Zach?
Thank you, Chris. Happy birthday to Kathy. And April birthdays are the best. Not biased whatsoever. Mike can attest to that as well. But that really aligns with my gratitude perfectly. Is that I spent more than half of my 20s here on the Gentian team. So hard to believe that that's been the case. But I'm looking forward to all of the 30s, all the 40s, all the 50s, all the 60s, and maybe even to the 70s at Gentians as well. So got the 20s taken care of, but extremely excited. And really, most importantly, it's just a great reflection time as always around another year around the sun of just how blessed I am with the team that we have here, with my friends in my life and family as well. So just appreciate all of you.
Thank you, Zach. How about Michael?
Thanks, Chris. Truly grateful this morning for all of our clients. Well, grateful every morning for all of our clients, but most recently I had a wonderful interaction with two people who I respect dearly. And they happened to make the comment that they've really enjoyed watching my professional growth. And I don't know if there's another industry where those individuals that we get to work with and serve on a daily basis get to share those things like that. So it's a kudos to, Chris and everybody here for helping me get to the point that I'm at. And I just want to say thank you to all of you as well.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Michael. And right back at you as well. How about Julie? How about yourself?
Thank you, Chris. I'm just grateful. It was a beautiful morning. I love mornings where I have a little bit of extra time and I can sit out on the porch in the sunshine and listen to the wind chime and the birds chirping. So just a great way to start the day in reflection on the upcoming hours of the day. So I'm just appreciative of the wonderful morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much as well. Ashley, I have a segment. How about yourself? How about
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Chris. I am thankful for such a great experience at the Orlando conference that I was able to participate and be a part of. I had a great camaraderie with just so many people that I don't get to see on a regular basis. So it was just a lovely experience, but also happy to be home.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that as well. So we just got back from the National Conference for Professional Development. It's a couple of days of just, kind of firing at you, the relationships you meet, speaking. There's an awful lot that goes on. We met James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, a book that I've read. And it's fairly simple as you go straight forward. There's Atomic Habits, and he's got it down to 4 things: cue, craving, response, and reward. And then I put one more down, which is repeat. So creating a habit really becomes about a very simple process, if you will. But Atomic Habits are getting 1% better every day. So it was an interesting piece that we got to see. And it was wonderful, I think, in the program as well. Another interesting portion too, on probably 3 or 4 different occasions, the Sunday night opening and also on Monday morning breakfast, and then Tuesday, I got to talk with Tom James. That's James from Raymond James, and a wonderful individual. He's fantastic. We talked about everything from markets, from Ace Greenberg back in 2008, who was running Bear Stearns, who used to sit on a chair about 4 feet above everybody else in the middle of a room. And that's the only way he would meet people. And we talked about why his firm probably failed back in 2008. And he said that was one of them. There was a lot of fun things we got to be able to talk to him about in the founding, and I really am just a sponge and listening. I ask him questions and just, I'm actually amazed to have the gentleman around. He's got such great experience and contacts. So a lot of it was great perspective. Going on down there, a lot of the markets, it's been a really tough year for a lot of people, and I appreciate that. I want to make sure we understand that too. The markets were tough, recession tough, politics were tough. A lot of family events happened to people as well. So I want to congratulate you for getting through a very tough year. Hopefully we gave you a little bit of hope and we're able to ease that and maybe some perspective on it as well. But I want to make sure it's clear that you understand and we understand together. Times get tough and we will get through them. You've got a lot of people who are still concerned with recession, right? And that's the conversation around recession. Even if it's just mentally, if it doesn't show up in numbers, usually we'll find out that recession occurred after the bottom has hit and things are starting to recover. The markets don't usually correlate with the bottoms of recession. In other words, people go, how could the market be up? We're in recession. Well, if you studied history, it's not an uncommon occurrence. So a lot of great technical advice and people there, and just perspective and history, things we've already studied as well. But I think one of the big things too, that we really had a ton of conversation there on Elevate. And I got to talk to Paul Riley, our CEO, and Scott Curtis, the CEO and president of our division. And what was really interesting about that is the relative strength compared to other firms of Raymond James is astounding. What they spend on technology is one of the top in the industry, and that's to keep both your information and assets safe, number one, and number two, to make sure that the cybersecurity and the things that are happening they're in front of. They just issued a new client access app that has been rated one of the top in the industry, and continually advisors that come over here from other firms constantly will remind Vin Campanelli, and they'll come up to him unsolicited and say, you by far have the best technology I've seen. So those are all great because it's the partner we chose in Raymond James. So remember, our affiliation is if Raymond James was to do something silly, we can change where we bank and hold your money, but it would have to be something that we think would be completely counter to how they're operating now. Right now, they have more capital than any other firm in the industry. They also have the banking assets are more well capitalized than any other firm. We hold a very large amount of cash on our balance sheet as well. And this is important because you're seeing other notable names, big names, having big issues with capital by making poor bets on long-term government securities, to the term where some of these firms are having a very hard time even existing without some bailouts. Another thing you're still noticing is the banking crisis is still going to meander. The worm of the banking crisis is still meandering around. You've got some very strong banks, and you've got a few banks that were a bit questionable in some of their asset purchases. So I know today, if you were looking at some headlines, I think First Republic is in the news. I think even Warren Buffett said it a few days ago about the banking crisis not being over yet. I want you to understand, we see these, we read these, but a lot of times, okay, so the banking crisis isn't over. What do you do with that? We ferret through it. We pull out our money in all of our money out of banks and put it in our mattresses. Do we, decide to buy gold and trade that? No, those are a lot of silly things. We'll go through and get through this as well. We'll see if there's anything that we really need to make a big difference with. We don't need to store more cash, but we do want to look at cash interest rates. If you've got cash that's sitting out there in a very, very, very low interest rate, there's some phenomenal ideas that you can talk about with interest rate enhancement and making more money on the money that you have that's safe. I just wanted to give you a bit of the economic background from the feel of the conference. There's a beginning of an optimism. I think a couple reports today, Microsoft had positive earnings. So last night they were up significantly after hours. Boeing is outputting more planes than expected as well. They're going to go up to 38 planes a month. If you think about that, the 737 MAX is going to put out 37 planes a month, or 38 planes a month. I'm sorry, it was. Visa also offered that some of their consumer strength, there's evidence of consumer strength that maybe signals inflation might be falling. So here's the case. This all will pass. We'll look back upon this and go, wow, that was a crazy time. It was really the post-COVID hangover. But I want to make sure you understand, and I think I've said it several times, that we pay attention to this. We ferret through it on a consistent basis. The nice thing is we have a massive team, and if it's not Mike, if it's Michael, if it's Zach, if it's Ryan, if it's anybody, and Ken, bring back ideas that we see and bring them together and ferreting out, is that something we really need to be concerned with? We always have a concern, but how do we need to elevate that or not? So the nice thing is we've also got the team of Raymond James doing that. And so that's really what we seek, a lot of different contacts at Raymond James at the top of divisions to make sure they're doing what we hope they should. So with that, I'll stop the diatribe at this moment. about Raymond James. It was a great conference. It was wonderful to see. We look forward to it. But I'll leave it at that. You know, one thing, I lost my glasses. I don't know if somebody think took them. I don't know where they are, but I got to let them know I have contacts. I'll find them. You get it. Anyway, I had to drop a dad joke in there at some point in time. So with that, I will pass it over to Ashley. Why don't we do your segment first? We've got some wonderful money saving tips. Then I'm going to hop over to Mike, and then I will go to Zach.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to share my screen here real quick with everyone, just because we had such great feedback in regards to some saving options. I wanted to bring a couple more things to your attention, because why should we spend more money on things that we don't have to? So if you are currently a Verizon cell phone or possibly internet carrier, or you use them for your services, check out the offers that they are offering. They include free Disney bundle, as well as Disney or Discovery Plus. I think it's a 6-month trial, so just double check that. But you can get a few months, or if not a year, with Disney for free. T-Mobile, which was Sprint previously, is offering free Netflix, Apple TV Plus, and Paramount Plus. Yes, it's only the essential version, so you'll have to watch a couple of commercials, but do check out those offers that T-Mobile is offering. AT&T is also offering free HBO if you, again, have a cell phone service or internet services through them. I believe it's for a year, but a free year is a free year, so definitely check that out. And if you subscribe to Walmart Plus for delivery of some of your groceries, as well as some of your snacks and other things that you don't like to go to the store for, they are offering free Paramount Plus. Again, also only the essential plan, but it's worth checking out. So just a few things to check out in regards to offers that you're already paying for their services. And back to you, Chris. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashley. I appreciate that. That's a great segment to bring in and talk about ways to save you some of the hard-earned money that you've saved. We appreciate that one quite a bit. And, you know, it's springtime here. As we come back, things are very green. That's awesome. It's also time to plant herb gardens and all sorts of things. But the trouble with an herb garden, it's just all about time. I know that's not very funny, but it's still good. At any rate, why don't we pass over to Mike's 1.5 minutes or 3 minutes, because Ken today is actually at Ken's Corner will be missing today. Only he is at slot pouring through all the tax annals that we need to pay attention to over the next probably 3 days, which is exciting. So thank you, Ken, for that, even though he's not here. But Mike, what's up? What do we need to know about?
Thanks, Chris. So I know Zach's going to go into a little bit more detail of all kind of the things that we've been doing kind of behind the scenes. And it's been a lot, and it's really exciting. Everything, all the new information that we've received and what we've been looking at, truly. And ironically, Ken is at Ed's slot, which is just outside of Washington, D.C., while I'm in Wisconsin. So it's kind of funny there. We might connect this weekend. We'll see. But you know, switching gears a little bit, I do want to kind of double back on something Chris was talking about, and that's some of like the headlines and some of the things that are coming out and that we see in the news. And as much as we try not to see the news, it's really difficult to never see headlines. And interestingly enough, headlines are always going to be there to get clicks, to get views, to get somebody to jump in. And when you open up an article, you might see what has been leading you to believe that something super negative was going to be the intent of what was happening. And then towards the end, you'll find, but, you know, there's a little bit of a silver lining, there's this and that. And how nice would it be if we led with the silver lining? But you know, unfortunately, that's not what people are looking to see. And that's not what people are going to look at. If everything's all good, they'll move on. They won't take a look and figure out what's not going to be. But that being said, a lot of these headlines, conceptually, with some of the fund partners that I've been talking to lately, Dave and we in general have been talking to, they've been bringing up some of the comments about, you know, headlines they're lagging indicators. The market is a leading indicator. A lot of times what a headline is saying has been already known by the stock market. And how does that actually work? So really, it's reflected in the price of the index. And that being said, managers and different people who are trading money and taking a look at this on a regular basis are anticipating this. Inflation, you know, interest rates, all these headlines, it's nothing new. This is news that we've been bringing to you and that we've been hearing behind the scenes, and same with our fund managers. So whatever reactions or anything like that, a lot of times the pain has been felt based upon what's already been out there. And so getting out now after reading a headline doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So sticking to the plan long-term, being in a diversified strategy is a great way to mitigate all that risk as we continue to talk about. On the other side of things, I do want to kind of just talk about some of the things that we've been looking at from a planning perspective behind the scenes here at Raymond James and Gentian Financial. And really what that is looking at lately some of these older cash value life insurance policies. A lot of people have them. They have old annuities, different things like that. Well, in this new interest rate environment, there's starting to become some new products out there that might be either more beneficial or just an opportunity to take a look at something that could create income in retirement if that's something that you're looking for, or potentially long-term care. So long-term care is one. A lot of people who have it know that the premium's been going up a lot. Now there's something called asset-based long-term care, and that's really a new concept. But because of the current interest rate environment, things are starting to look a little bit more favorable.
Thank you, Mike. If the questions are easy, ask me. If they're really difficult and require a lot of research, ask Mike. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate that. So just one or two other things here. I'm going to just touch base on progress here after Zach talks too, and gives us really Zach's facts. But there's a couple of things we want to kind of go along with here. Is that there's been a lot of talk of progress and technology and advancement. Now, I'll put a little different spin on that as we go through it. But before we go through that, I'd like to hear, Zach, what should we be looking at today? What are some of the ideas we should be following? Some of that, you've got all sorts of incredible things, probably too many to share in a half hour, but give us some of the highlights of what we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. We'll keep it a little higher level today. We'll go in more detail next week. As you guys may have seen, we have our spring forums, both in Appleton and also in Milwaukee next week, where we'll really dive into more detail. But to give you an update on some of the different market indices like we normally do, the Dow Jones is still up about 1% on the year. The S&P 500 right around 6%, which is still about 15% off of highs. I think before yesterday, it was almost 7.5% temporarily up on the year. The NASDAQ, which is 50% weighted towards technology. If you remember from our webinars last year, our conversations, the NASDAQ, had a farther downturn because technology really weighed it down, and that was 30% off of highs or more at one point, and that one's still actually 25% off of highs, but up almost 13% on the year. International about 7%, and emerging markets about 1.25% up on the year, depending on the time frame you look at. You go back to October, some emerging market strategies are up significantly more than that. So through rebalancing, we're able to take advantage of that for quite a long period of time. On the fixed income side of things, Chris mentioned it with the different strategies with banks with some outside money. If you haven't utilized the different money market strategies that we've brought up to you already, keep an eye out at your bank as well. I think banks, from what we've heard, are really wanting to keep assets there and keep their deposits there and bring in more. So they're coming up with more strategies for CDs around 4.5%, upwards of 5%. We've heard, depending on the time frame. Same with some of their money market strategies as well. One thing that people have asked us to share a little bit more of just some things we've been really working on behind the scenes, and Chris and Mike mentioned a few of those. I was at Strategic Coach yesterday, had the opportunity to study with team leaders from across the country on how we can be a better functioning team together, and also really just better humans to serve you better. Ken is going through Secure Act 2.0, all the impacts of that, and bringing that back to us for planning. Had the representative from Raymond James that Chris mentioned with different strategies, also making sure that we're aware of all the different tools and resources that Raymond James Bank has to offer. I know securities-based lending was kind of a hot topic during COVID, or different times where it was hard to get loans or a bridge loan. Taking a look at the benefits of that and also the negatives. When interest rates rise, it maybe not be the best option anymore. Some of the biggest ones coming up, we're constantly meeting with our centers of influence, accountants, attorneys, health insurance specialists, lenders, and others. And we're really going to start meeting with our tax accountants that we have good contact with now that the tax season is over, really what they found during the 2022 tax season, but also planning moving forward for 2023. And really one of the ones we're most passionate about is continuing to build out these resources of who our centers of influence are, not only for the planning side of retirement and the different strategies that Mike mentioned with income producing, with insurances and others, but also the live it side. Chris works very heavily with the community to see who would be a great resource for us that necessarily doesn't have to do with our retirement portfolio potentially or strategy, but really how can they benefit your life as well. And really the give it portion It's one our team is passionate on with volunteering for ourselves, but also creating community contacts that if giving your service, your time, your energy is important to you, we're trying to find great charities that help support the community as well. So just kind of touching on a lot of different things that we're working on. And with that, Chris, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you very much, Zach. I appreciate that. So I've got about 15 things to go over that I could go over, I guess I should say, but now we're only 9 minutes left. So I'll be careful with that. And I do want to get to the most important things we have going on that Julie will talk about at the end that you should pay attention to too. But let me give you a couple of other items that were of note. Another issue that was interesting to watch, and I want to make sure you're very clear with this too and be very careful. We're finding cybersecurity, cyber threats are changing. They are enhancing what they're able to do. Right now, people can record 30 seconds of a voice and mimic it. So I may be able to call somebody or somebody may be able to call me on the phone sounding like you. So we might have to find other methods of verification if you're taking out large amounts of money. Raymond James is on the front of this. We're on the front of this as well. We want to keep your money safe, but cyber criminals are becoming much, much more adept at what they do to defraud people. And they're not just a hiding place where they're in somebody's basement in Nigeria. They're actually organized companies. One was called Freedom or Freeform. There's one that's in India. They showed an actual camera inside of it where the gentleman called in. It's a vacation line. You can buy this vacation and it's really cheap. Of course, you never get the vacation, but they keep your money. And he called in, looked through the camera, saw the operator who actually answered his call. And in the video, you can actually see the whole conversation. Now, that's from the Compliance Geeks. It was quite a bit of fun to watch that as well. But in the Chairman's Council, that's where they bring in the top 100 advisors. There's a lot of technology enhancements that are moving toward your security. There's a lot of money being spent on cybersecurity prevention. They're hiring and finding the best to go out ahead of what's happening and prevent it from getting to you. But that doesn't mean every communication will. I'm still surprised. I had a gentleman, let me tell you a quick story, a gentleman working on my front door, just to realign it. It's been 45 years or so. So they've got 2 wood doors and they're realigning them. And all of a sudden, all I hear is some expletive. Oh, and then whatever it was. He's an old worker, so it was a word I won't share. But it's like, what? Oh, they hacked it. I got this $499 charge. I don't even work with Best Buy. Oh, I got to take care of this right away. I said, hold on. Let me ask you a couple of questions. Have you ever bought anything at Best Buy? Well, no, but they got my credit card and they charged this up. And I go, let me take a look at that. It was phishing. Phishing is people sending an email saying that there's a legitimate charge or that UPS can't make a delivery for you or FedEx can't make a delivery, but you need to call them and give them some credit card numbers or due to lack of postage or something. Be very, very, very careful with that. You know, we saw several different examples of this. They're getting more sophisticated in how they do that. They were actually so brazen as to one person walked into a Wells Fargo branch and was impersonating one of the clients with many different forms, signed a form as Paul Riley, that's the CEO of Raymond James, saying that the transaction was okay. They prevented this, but they found this on fraud and they were tracking it very heavily. So they're getting very brazen with some of their attempts as well. I just want to make sure you're safe out there because it's an interesting world. Technology not only enhances our lives, but there's also the other side. We've got to make sure we're watching both. We got a healthy dose of both. So I wanted to bring those couple of things out. The last thing I want to talk about before I pass it over to Julie is about progress. So I want to ask a question. You hear us talk a lot about technology. You'll hear more at our program as well in the next week or two. But what I want to do is progress. Some of you think it's great. Some of you don't. I can't blame either one of you because I can see how it's fun to go back to the good old times. And it's exciting to look ahead to what artificial intelligence can do, right? But I got to say that progress. So this device right here has been called one of the most progressive devices, the things that pushed us so far ahead in productivity ever, right? So we have a device here that allows us to communicate. And communicate is one of the basic functions we do. It allows us to communicate without end on a massive basis with anybody you'd like to at any time, through text, through voice, through emails, or anything you'd like to, right? So if I was to go back 10 years, now that we can communicate in any form we want to, anytime we want to, with all the freedom and the frequency you'd like to, are we better off? Let's go to one thing. How about our relationships? If we're now able to communicate on a consistent, concise basis, how are our relationships? Are they better? I think many would agree that no, it's actually caused a lot more anxiety. more divisiveness. The human nature that is inside of many of us comes out in unfortunate ways when people can hide behind a screen or a mask. Here's two things. So with all the advances in communication, with all the progress, if you will, when it comes to technology, really, I got to ask a question. Are we better off? Will we be better off? The choice is often up to us. Right now on social media, people will enhance their wins and completely forget and eliminate their losses. That's not healthy for anyone else to watch. Hey, I was just here. Oh, it was so great. It was the best thing in the world. What I didn't show you is while I was there, I got food poisoning. I was sick in the hotel for 3 days. They don't show you that stuff, right? They don't show you the real aspect of it. So you get this enhanced world. Very interesting, though, as we talked about communication, and also artificial intelligence will give us all the information we want potentially right away. But I'm going to ask one more question. If we can't make better decisions, what good is progress? What good is more communication if it divides our relationships? What good is more information if we can't make better decisions? So this is a bit of the stoic in me, a bit of the philosopher coming out going, what good is all this? And this, what good amid all these in this noise and haste am I if I can't be better for them? So I can track all sorts of information on my bands and this and that, my health, that's great stuff. So we just have to make sure we're looking at both, use them judiciously. So I didn't mean to be too big of a diatribe on that, but I wanted to bring that up and say, this is something I think we need to watch. Progress is interesting. As long as it does help us, we also need to look at the other side and maybe reduce our social media, maybe increase our gratitude on social media. Maybe they can offset each other that way. With that, I just wanted to talk a bit about some of the ideas that have been kind of floating through my head. I finished 2 books, Atomic Habits. I finished a book called Holy Moments, and finished How to Win Friends and Influence People in the last probably 3 or 4 days. It was as I travel, I get time to read and go through those. Great books. I'll share more on those another time, but a lot of these just come from some of the thoughts in both of those. With that, I'm a couple minutes over, but Julie, how about yourself? What do we need to pay attention to?
Thank you, Chris. Those are great questions for each of us to ponder over. So I appreciate that. So just a couple items to review as we kind of wrap up April and look ahead to May. Starting with this Sunday is our one and only Zach DeBoer's golden birthday. So we wish him a very happy birthday as he celebrates that day. So give him a shout out if you have a chance. And as previously mentioned, we have our spring forums coming up. Wednesday, May 3rd, we will be in Appleton at the Bridgewood Resort. That forum starts at 11 a.m. And then the following day, it will be the Milwaukee Forum at Blue Mound Country Club. And that forum starts at 10 o'clock. So there still is time to register. And you can do so by clicking on the RSVP link in the weekly bulletins. So we'd love to see you at one of those. And then Tuesday, May 9th is another one of our health and wealth webinars with Michelle Norris. She's going to go over what's in your grocery cart. So helping us navigate through the grocery store and through our pantries and helping us to make good choices to support our nutritional goals. So that's what we have going on right now. So we hope to see you at one of the forums and have a great weekend. I'll pass it back to you, Chris.
Thank you very much, Julie. I appreciate that. Going along with it, I'm in a book right now called Young Forever with Dr. Mark Hyman. It's a very technical book on 7 different major systems that you can do. And most of the answers to most of the issues we have are food, healthy choices. And it's kind of amazing when you go through it. A lot of the cures lie in our grocery cart, or a lot of our ills lie in our grocery cart. We can make it a positive moment or a tough one. Sometimes it may not taste good, but you may need to eat something that's really healthy for you. At any rate, that's one. So Dr. Mark Hyman has a bunch of great stuff in his book. A couple of things coming up as well. I want to say there's a couple of new team members we'll be introducing to you soon. They've been here. Michael, you may have heard of, but we'll talk more about him at the upcoming forum. So there's a bit of a tease. We have another team member joining us as well, from a couple of great firms. And what I'd like to do as well is talk just one last piece here about some things we're going to do on the live it side of the equation. We're going to we have a menu of 3 or 4, maybe 5 or 6 items that will help you. One is yoga for healing. Another one is organic gardening. And we want to add some of these different ideas, and then we'll talk about travel and a few others. And these all come from ideas from you, things we've heard from you, things we've asked of you and you've responded to. categories where some of you may not have any interest whatsoever, but for those who do, it can make a massive difference in your life and how you live. So remember, it's not just about the money, it's how, if we can offer or connect you to things that are very important to help you enhance life and live your best life, that's also one of the things that we're offering as well. So with that, I want to thank you very much here at Gentian for letting us plan your retirement, helping you live your retirement to your best life, and then giving what you have left over. We really appreciate all that you do for us. Thank you for being a client of ours. Thank you for being a couple minutes over today. And with that, I want to thank you, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Have a great week. Bye-bye.